The crime of exploitation of a child in the state of Mississippi is a serious crime. It's a serious offense. It's basically a sex crime. And where you see it a lot is where an individual, an adult, makes contact with a child for the purpose of arranging to have sex or send sexually explicit material. Basically, it criminalizes any type of communication, including by computer or electronic device, from an adult to a child, where child is defined simply as any person under the age of 18. And that communication is for the purpose of sexual in nature. It could be discussing sexual activities, it could be arranging to meet for some kind of sex, or sending sexually explicit pictures, photographs, images, text, okay, words back and forth. All right, that can all be considered sexual exploitation of a child in the state of Mississippi. Now, where you see these types of cases a lot and where guys get arrested is when it's an operation by undercover law enforcement. So there's no actual child on the other end. It is a cop, usually a detective in the local sex crimes bureau, posing as a child. Because, you know, I mean, when we're talking about electronic communication, we're talking about, you know, through an app on your phone, messaging back and forth. And if you, the guy, the adult guy, is on your end, and the person on the other end identifies themselves as a female juvenile, let's say, she says, yeah, I'm a girl, I'm under the age of 18, maybe even sends you a picture, and that picture could have come from anywhere, right? Then, I mean, you're in the trap right there. Okay, what you don't know is that on the other end is actually a cop, probably a male detective, okay, adult, posing as a kid, posing as a young girl. They can do that, and the law even says that it's not a defense. It's not a defense to your prosecution that it was law enforcement on the other end and not an actual child. So even though the law defines child as anyone under the age of 18, it carves out an exception and says that it is not a defense to prosecution under this section if it was law enforcement posing as a minor. Okay, and they do that a lot. They conduct sting operations, basically, where they will round up or catch guys, and they get into a conversation, and it leads to talking about sex and arranging to meet for sex or sending pictures that are sexually explicit. Next thing you know, you're being arrested. So that's how that happens a lot of the time. Of course, another instance, another example of how it could happen if it is an actual child that's being solicited, and that child likely is going to tell their parents, and the parents will call the police, and the police will investigate. But those sting operations is where you see it a lot. You see it a lot in DeSoto County, where I practice, Hernando, South Haven, those areas, and they go online. These guys, the police, I mean the detectives, and they pose as young girls, and they get men caught up in these charges. You may have heard about a legal principle, a defense called entrapment. I mean, entrapment is difficult to prove in these kinds of cases. I mean, that is one possible defense. But if you've been charged, you're in a serious situation, because this is a felony in Mississippi. It carries a minimum, I believe, $50,000 fine and a minimum 5 years punishment in prison if convicted. So it's real serious. If you find yourself in this situation, you know, first of all, if you think, well, I had some communication with somebody identified as underage, and it was sexually explicit, and you're not sure what to do, you should call a lawyer, because there's a good chance you're going to get a call from law enforcement, or you're going to get arrested. I mean, once the police have enough evidence, they can get a warrant to arrest you, and they find where you live, and they can arrest you. Or what they often do, actually, in those undercover type situations, is they arrange the meet, and they say, come to this location, and when you get there, the police are waiting for you, and you get arrested right there. So you could be arrested on the scene. You could be arrested later on through a warrant. They could get an arrest warrant. If the police call you and tell you that they want to ask you some questions about this, that's not a good sign. That means you're going to get arrested. You should just get a lawyer at that point. So that's kind of an overview of these types of cases. That's frequently how they happen. That's factually like how they end up, these sting operations, or an actual child telling their parents, and the police take it from there. And if you find yourself in that situation, you need to get a lawyer, because as I said, it's pretty serious charges. You're looking at prison time, and it's going to affect your life. It's going to change a lot of things. You're going to be in for a long court process. Of course, if you get arrested, you'll have to go to jail. You'll have to get money together for bond, get money for your lawyer, and you're going to be going to court for some time on this. And at the end of it, you may be having to go to prison. But we can look at it and see, are there any defenses, or are there any things that can mitigate this for you and help you get a better deal, maybe less than prison, maybe a probation, maybe even something where it can stay off your record at the end of all that. That may be an option. But talk to me about your case. I handle these. Again, I mentioned DeSoto County. They do these a lot. Other parts of northern Mississippi counties, the sting operations. But that's where I practice. And give me a call. Thanks.